Welcome to Life on Lindy. It's been a while since I've posted a video, but I've had a few requests to see what I did for fall. If you hear some strange noises in the background, that's probably my dog. So I'm going to try and put together a video of the photos that I have taken of the decorations that I did. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Stacy. These are all the things that I used. It looks like a whole lot. It is a whole lot, but I scattered it out pretty sparsely throughout the house. I've been going with a more minimal decor this whole year. I just seem to be overwhelmed with a whole lot of things everywhere, and I get sick of it really quickly. So this year it's been all about the minimal. And I didn't think anybody would be interested in the minimal, but a few people have asked me to see it. The first thing we're going to start with is this small chest of drawers in the foyer. I don't do a whole lot on it. I put this rooster on it that I've had for about 17 years. The first thing I did was I put a wreath on the bottom, and then I put two nested trays, round trays that are identical. On top of that, I added some beads. I put another lamb's ear wreath at the bottom for some greenery to hide the wood, and then I set that rooster on top of it. I knew I wanted to pull this big rooster out for fall decor, but I also knew that it would look a little bare with just the rooster on top of the little dresser. So I added the other things just to give it a little more depth and some interest. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to move on to the shelf that has peg hooks on it. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a black lantern. I add that black lantern just to give it some height, and I always add some gold, so I'm going to put these two gold pumpkins, one on each side. I leave the gold in here, or I add the gold, because we kept the original chandelier to the house, and it is gold, and we kept all of the hardware in the foyer gold. The lantern does light up, I just don't have it lit up. Here's a shot of the chandelier. I really do love it. Next, we're going to move on to the hooks that are under the shelf. There are 4 hooks there, and I just hang a wreath on one end. It's a lamb's ear wreath, and I put a fall greenery wreath over the top of that to give it some interest. On the right end, I usually keep this little mini basket hanging there, and I change out the greenery or whatever I want to put in it. I put carrots in it at Easter, but I put this greenery in it that I've been using throughout the house all fall long, and I got that at Hobby Lobby. The basket was an Amazon find. After I got that the way I wanted it, I moved on to the middle, and I just hung a scarf and a little bit of beads on top of it, and I think it finished it out, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I always have to make sure I don't cover up the light switch. From here, we'll move over to the blanket ladder. My husband Dean built 2 of these ladders for me, and I really do love them, and it was a whole lot more inexpensive than going to a store and buying one that is ready-made, because they are expensive. All I did was put a blue blanket at the bottom portion of the ladder and a beige blanket at the top, and then I put another scarf at the top of it and just sort of draped it over it kind of messily. From here, we'll move on to the French doors, and I didn't do a lot to them at all. I keep these 2 baskets hanging there year-round, and I just change out what I put inside of them. And all I did this time was put some of those greenery picks that I got from Hobby Lobby that I've used throughout all of my fall decor. I've found that by using some pieces year-round and just changing out what's in them makes decorating so much easier and keeps things from looking cluttered, such as keeping those baskets up. The last space in the foyer that I decorated is this corner, and I normally leave this tree up year-round. I've had it at least 20 years, and the only time I really move it is when I decorate for Christmas. This area changed off and on all throughout fall. At one point, I just put the big pumpkin next to the tree, but then I found the little scarecrows, and I added those. Everyone gets a big kick out of those little scarecrows because they call them Little Dean and Little Stacy, because I actually have that same outfit that she's wearing, and Dean has that same hat and boots. We got these at Hobby Lobby, and I think they were 50% off. But what attracted me To them was I first saw the boy scarecrow, and he was holding that puppy, and we have 2 dogs, and I just had to have that puppy. And then Dean saw the girl, and we got her too. When it was all said and done, I ended up adding this pumpkin that's decorated with floral picks. I have about 5 of these, and I decorated them a few years ago. And I just set it in front of the boy and girl, and I thought it looked nice there. At one point, I had it in the middle of my coffee table in the living room, but you'll see that I changed directions there and added something else. Now we're going to move into the living room. The first thing we're going to do is something easy, and that's the recliner. I'm just going to put a couple throws on there and a lumbar pillow, and it just looks good. Next is the fireplace mantle. The fireplace is not that big, so I don't do a whole lot to it. I just usually add some candles on one side and then something else on the other side. I usually try to keep all of the candles the same color, and in this case, they're gray. I try to do a variety with the candle holders. I try to have some natural wood, some white, and some black just to give it some interest. On the other end of the mantle, I left the same glass blue jug that I've had there for spring and summer, and I left the greenery that was in it, and I just added a few fall picks into it to make it look more seasonal. I also left the string of large beads around the jug. I added the candle warmer to the center underneath the clock, and the clock stays there all the time. The clock is still available at Hobby Lobby, and I got the candle warmer from Amazon. Next to the fireplace, I just leave this wooden crate, and it has a fluffy throw, a blue and white chinoiserie style monogrammed pillow, and another pillow that I just covered with a pillow cover, and you'll see those throughout the house as well. This is how it looks with the candle warmer and the fire on. This lamp stays in the corner all the time unless it's Christmas, and it was a Kirkland's find. This is the other blanket ladder that my husband Dean made, and I did the same thing to this one, that I added the blue blanket at the bottom, the beige one at the top, and put another scarf over the top of it. The little thing on the floor is a sound machine, and it has a crackling fire sound. Our fireplace is electric, and I like that sound. I didn't do too much to the entertainment stand. I just added in a velvet pumpkin, and I put a fall pattern bandana on the ceramic dog Foof. The bandana is actually just a cloth napkin that I tied around his neck. The real dogs have a bandana like that, and a bow that I made for Violet for her hair that they wear on fall holidays. Foof is a ceramic dog that my mom made about 41 years ago, and she's been gone for almost 20 years, and we keep it behind glass to keep it safe. These items on the end table stay here pretty much all year round too, other than Christmas when I move the coasters and put bells in their place. All I did was change out the floral picks to something fall, the same picks that I've used in other places in the house, and it was done. I left all the vases and the candles just like they were. Working with items that you already have and can just change up, like I put different picks in those vases, it just makes everything so much easier and so much simpler. This is how the coffee table centerpiece turned out. In the beginning, I had the big pumpkin on it, the one that's in the foyer next to the tree. I had been eyeing this pumpkin that comes from Mackenzie Childs. I just couldn't bring myself to pay $89 to order it. So I took just a plain orange styrofoam pumpkin that I've had for years. I painted it white, and then I painted the blue squares on it. Once it was dry, I put a couple coats of clear coat on it. I glued the stem back onto it that had been spray painted gold, and this is how it turned out, and I'm more than happy with it. I think it looks just as good as the Mackenzie Childs, and it only cost me around $7 to do it. Underneath it, I have 2 round trays. One is brown and one is white, and I have a wreath on the bottom of the white tray to give it some contrast. I wrapped a string of blue beads around it with fringed ends, and I like the way it turned out. On the couch, I left the blue pillows that are always there, and I covered the beige ones with the orange pillow covers, added a couple throws, and that was it. Luke wasn't interested in moving, so I just left him there for the photos. Now we're moving on into the kitchen and the dining area, and once again, I didn't do a whole lot in here. I started off with what was already on my shelf, was the green wreaths and the pitcher in a tray. And all I did was I laid the wreaths down and I put a pumpkin inside of each one of them, and it was just simple and it was enough for me. The thankful sign stays up there all the time. I never move it. I think Dean actually has it glued up there, so it's going to be there for the long haul. Moving on to the corner section of the upper cabinets, this is what I normally had on it during spring and summer. I left the white shelf up there. I laid down 2 dried corn silk wreaths and just put some pumpkins in those, and I reused the lanterns that were already there, and I moved the birds up to the shelf on each side of the lamb's ear, and I like how it turned out. Above the upper cabinets that are to the right of the corner cabinets, I sort of mimicked the look. I laid down 2 wreaths and put the pumpkins inside of them. I left the blue and white canister on the tray, and I left it this way, and I like how it turned out. It's clean and it's simple, and I used pretty much everything that I already had. Moving down to the countertops, I added an aqua towel to the front of the stove, and to the side where the ice maker is and the blue and white pitcher that holds the utensils, I just added a wooden pumpkin. I left the white kettle on the stove top, and that was all I did to the stove. I left everything on the countertops that I already had there. I just added a small pumpkin to this corner tray, and I left all of the cutting boards where they are. I don't have a lot of counter space, and so I like to keep it fairly clean, and it's just easy to just add little touches if you just put out the things that you need. I did have fall candy in the honey jar, but it's all gone now. I hang hand towels on each side of the sink, and I do that because when my dogs were puppies, they would steal all the hand towels and take them outside and play tug of war and ruin them. To the left of the sink, I just left the paper towels there. Also left the little cheesecloche, and it's nestled into a round tray, and I just put a pumpkin in there because I don't have any snacks or goodies in it right now. If you notice the command hook to the right of the light switch, that's where I hang my rings when I do dishes. Next, we're going to move on to the open shelves on each side of the pantry. On the right side of the pantry, on the top shelf, all I did was put some pumpkins and some hand towels in that blue basket that has been there all spring and summer. On the middle row, I just added this gourd to a set of plates that was already there. On the countertop where the small appliances are, I left the lamp that stays there all the time. I left it there, and I added a wood pumpkin cutting board and a glass pumpkin candy jar. On the open shelves to the left of the pantry, on the top shelf, I just added one of the pumpkins that I have decorated before and put it on the top shelf. I did the same thing on the left side as I did the right side with the pumpkin cutting board and the glass pumpkin candy jar and the lamp. I left the glass cake plate and the coffee maker where it was. I didn't change anything on the top of the pantries. Now we're moving on to the dining area. I left the same blue and white runner that's on the table and the same black picture, but I changed out the florals to some more fall picks. On these 2 standalone pantry cabinets, all I did was add a pumpkin on the top of each one of them. I leave a wreath over each one of them all seasons long. It's just another way I've been trying to keep things simple. I didn't change anything at all to this cabinet except add one small white pumpkin. This is the hallway bathroom, and the only thing I did in here was added another one of those pumpkins that I've decorated, and I set it on a pedestal. I think it looks really nice, and it's simple, and it's not overcrowded. This is the front porch, and I kept it simple out here this year too. All I did was add the pumpkin that Dean made, the wooden pumpkin, and I put a basket with scarecrows and fall flowers on the front door. And I left the flower arrangement that sits on the side of the door all spring and summer, and I think it all coordinates nicely. Thank you to everyone that requested this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.